This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Modoff is back to his winning ways, reinvigorating his championship defense. But Acosta's ability to rack up top five seems eerily familiar. And in the midst of it all, don't discount Michael Diaz. Still winless, he's taken bonus points for a pole as well as a fastest lap, and has proven dangerously quick. What does the sports car haven of Road Atlanta have in store for them today? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 5 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, today we're at the home of the Petit Le Mans, Road Atlanta.
Yes, indeed, we are. IMSA and sports car fans in general are quite familiar with Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, but for those who are new to the Brazelton, Georgia venue, you are in for quite a treat. It's 12 turns that require the utmost skill, and just a hair over 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles that really test the nerves of even the world's greatest. A daunting turn 1 plunges you into the very famous but very tricky S's, where if you miss one mark, you'll miss them all. Turn 5 is what brings you up out of the valley and back into an acceleration zone. But you need to be careful getting on the gas, because running wide, tagging the curb, and going spinning is probably the most common mistake here at Road Atlanta. The double apex of 6 and 7 lead you onto the long back stretch, where timing the slingshot is key to set up your passes into the downhill left-right turn 10 chicane. Another few right turns put you back onto the front stretch, where hopefully you can begin another lap. It certainly sounds like a roller coaster ride here in Georgia, but you haven't seen it yet to believe it. That is, until now, as you ride on board for the GSRC Lap Guide.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Road Atlanta. Coming down to turn 1, this is a frighteningly fast corner. You might still see some brave passes into here, but a mishap tends to end your day quickly. From there, you'll try to line yourself up over the blind crest of 2 and set up for 3. Knowing your turn-in point will be tricky and require great precision. After that, you'll hug the inside of 4 to set yourself up for the S's. The racing through this valley should be pretty much single file all day, otherwise you're taking an incredible risk. Turn 5 sees a lot of unforced errors, and most drivers pay for it in bodywork with how little runoff there is on either side. Finally, you get a short breather up to 6, which has more camber than you'd expect. That makes it tough to overtake here, and honestly, it's better to set yourself up for 7 anyways. This is the most critical corner of the circuit, with it leading you onto the backstretch. Fail to get a good launch on the exit, and you'll find yourself very vulnerable to attack. You see, it's not just the slipstream that offers your opponents a good opportunity. It's the fact that the turn 10 chicane is one of the heaviest braking zones of the lap. For the layman, that means a majority of the passes you'll see will take place here. So if the other driver doesn't get it done on the straight, they're likely to try to beat you to the apex when you get on the binders. From off the corner, you'll already start aiming the car across the crest and under the bridge. From there, it's very marginal getting through the final corner, which is another really dangerous turn. But hopefully you've kept it together and have now finished the lap around Road Atlanta. There, that should give you a good idea of why it's referred to sometimes as the roller coaster, but our director likes to call it the pork chop because of how it looks from above. As always, though, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing these two, involving SimRacers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at SIMMSA.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series will get a ButtKicker Gamer 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. So apologies for losing a little bit of picture here for a moment, but we'll continue on with this pre-race show as we've got points to go over. So, Nick, what are the drivers' standings looking like so far?
Yeah, I'll talk for a moment here about the both the driver standings and the team standings. But first, the driver standings, like you mentioned, Abner Acosta, the Obsidian Racing driver driving that BMW M8, continues to lead the points. He's the only driver, despite only winning once out of the first 4 races of the 10 this season. He's the only driver in the whole field to have swept in top 5. So he's not finished lower than he's not finished outside the top 5 to begin the year. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep that going at a track that is such a fan and driver favorite like Road Atlanta tonight. Michael Diaz in a close second to that stat, though. He's finished in the top 5 3 times. He's the only driver to do that, actually. He sits 11 points behind him, his teammate there in second. Carl Modolf, he has jumped from 8th up to 3rd in the points with his win last week, and the Kokomoto Racing Team Porsche is back onto the podium. Christian Eisler sits 25 points behind the leader, and Sean Macbeth actually has crept his way up into the top 5 as well. So nice to see him, despite not having a top 5 yet this season. So many drivers struggling with DNFs and attrition on track. That has actually put Sean Macbeth up in the top 5. The team's championships as well going on. I mentioned Kokomoto Racing Team, of course. That includes Carl Modolf. They have crept inside the top 5, so they are 5th right now, but still 95 points behind Obsidian Racing, who currently have the top 2 drivers in the whole field, Abner Acosta and Michael Diaz. SRT Esports West sits in 2nd. The Racing Sim Tools Podium Hunters have found the podium. They are in 3rd, and Team Bushfink Copper sits in 4th as well.
Thanks for that update, Nick. Now, some of our viewers might be watching for the first time since we don't have the Peak Series on this week. So in case you're tuning in and trying to check out exactly how things are going to be going down, here's the race details for today. Looks like we've got our picture back just on top of it. We are halfway through the season. It's a 10-race season in this series, a bit unusual compared to some others. And you can see with it being GTE cars, they've got 4 different makes that they can choose from: the Porsche, the Ferrari, the Ford, or the BMW. Now, if you did watch last season, you might be expecting a 45-minute race. Not so. It is 60 minutes this season. They've extended it, but it is still 1 pit stop that they will be taking because they've limited the fuel compared to what real GTE cars can take. And they have an incident cap there at the bottom. If they get 24 of them, they will be disqualified. They also have no spare car, of course, to save them if they do get damaged. You've got to come in and get that repaired if you run into anything. As always, you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe. All you got to do for that is go to their YouTube page, click on the big red button that says subscribe, and then you'll get all of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series in your YouTube feed each and every week. Currently have qualifying going on, and I'm honestly a bit shocked at who we've got up at the top. Dino Filippa has found pace out of somewhere and has put himself on the pole, but only by 2 1,000ths of a second over Caraballo. Modolf temporarily held the pole, even though he's only been in for just a few laps of practice. He seems to have gotten adjusted to this track quick, Nick.
Yeah, Dino Filippa, he is also similar to Abner Acosta. He's not finished outside the top 5, but he's only been involved in 2 races this season. He's coming off a 2-week break. He raced rounds 1 and 2. He's back now, and Moises Caraballo has just taken the pole as well, but he sits on top, or he sits in 2nd now on the front row.
Let's see if Carl Modolf can respond to get back up to the top spot. He's actually just ahead of his teammate. We're riding on board with him right now, but Corey Clark taking a little bit of a tow down the backstretch on their warm-up lap. Not sure if they're trying something tricky here to find a little bit of extra speed in these GTE cars. Let's not forget Michael Diaz, who's on the outside of the second row. Remember, he is second in points without a win so far this season. But much like what we've been seeing with Acosta, Nick, it seems like consistency has really been on the 45 strand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kept him up here, and he sits in 4th right now. Like you mentioned, he's right behind Karl Modov, who has not been as consistent as he would have liked to be this year. A couple of races where he found himself down the order quite a bit. And we mentioned Abner Acosta sitting right outside the top 5. He's just jumped himself up into the podium, jumps Karl Modov up into 3rd.
Boy, things are incredibly tight from second down to 7th place, essentially. Second place, Dino Filippa with a 1:14.7. You go all the way down to 7th position, and they're all within 0.2 of a second. That is Javi Chardas, who is down there in P7 with a 1:14.9. See what Stogbauer's got, if he can crack into the top 10 himself. He's in 11th as he works his way through the chicane. You can see we've had a bit of cloud cover. It's been relatively cool today, Nick. Thankfully a lot cooler than what we had in Canada, ironically, at about 79 degrees. So I imagine this should be pretty grippy out there, shouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Who would have thought that the race up in Mosport was going to be a lot hotter than the race down in the south in Georgia? But yeah, one of the tracks where grip is required the most, especially through those S's and coming up out of turn 5. I think the drivers are definitely going to appreciate that. However, it is still a 1-hour race, and tires are going to wear off pretty quickly with a lot of aggressive driving. So they are still going to have to watch that. Grip is not going to save them entirely tonight.
Eisler does not go faster. He stays in 10th position. Espinoza in the meantime in 13th. He's just finished his warm-up lap. Battery didn't have that one count, so he's now on a flyer himself. And it's Justin Rame in the meantime. Justin pretty far down the order. He set his fastest lap this last time, but that's only good enough for 21st at that 1:15.7. Heading over to Pisano, who is a little bit farther down, 23rd, and also, well, make that 22nd. Just put in a 1:15.7 of his own, just behind Justin Rame. Trying to see if any of our front runners are getting ready to finish their lap. And it looks like Modov, Diaz, and actually Caraballo are all very close together, but Modov's slow, so he's not on a hot lap now. Javi Chardas, who stays in 7th place, not able to go any faster. Maybe down to Fernando Borda, who's currently in 23rd himself. Should be going a little bit higher soon, I would expect. Looks like Caraballo is going to abandon his lap as I was watching to see what he was going to be able to do. Wonder if we could put the cameras on Abner Acosta, because the number 5 is coming through the chicane. He sits in 3rd currently, up and under the Suzuki Bridge. Around the final corner, across the line. That one not faster, 3/100ths slower than his best lap. Run out of time for hot laps here with 1.5 minutes left to go. Nick Harwood finds himself in, it looks like, 16th place as the checkered flag just came out. Am I seeing that correctly? So, drivers now completing their last possible lap, checking to see who the next across the line should be. And it looks like actually Carl Modoff, who is sitting on the outside of row 2, should be our next one through. Let's see what this one holds for him. Nothing, because he's going to come into the pits. Fernando Borda down and across the line. His fastest is a 15.7 still. He ups it by a couple 100ths, but that only takes him up one position into 22nd. There's Valenzuela, who did not get any lap times in. Maciera as well done for the day. And that is everybody done with their qualifying for the day. So let's go through your starting grid. Moises Caraballo, once again, fast, but can he finish this race? He's had 2 DNFs and 2 wins so far. Which one's it going to be? Dino Filippa will be starting in second with Abner Acosta in third. Carl Modoff, our current champion, starts fourth with Michael Diaz, second place in the championship in fifth position. Sean Macbeth starts P6 with Javi Uchardes in seventh place. Andrew Caron will be eighth. He didn't have the greatest of races last time out in Canada. Pete Mobrotten will be P9. Top 10 rounded out by Michael Stoggbauer.
Behind him, 11th place is going to go to Pablo Valenzuela Uribe. He's starting alongside the driver who sits in 4th place in the standings, Christian Eisler. He's definitely going to be looking to make up some track position early on. Andres Espinoza and Jeffrey Arroyan will round out row number 7. 15th place goes to Leif Peterson. He's being flanked alongside by Corey Clark. Nick Harwood and Sebastian Maciera in the 19 and 22 machines will be starting 17th and 18th. 19th goes to Josh Daniels, and Rodrigo Munoz will be starting P20.
21st is Justin Rame. Fernando Borda up to 22nd at the end. Anthony Pisano will be beside him in 23rd. Kenneth Rodriguez starts P24. Matthew Hall 25th. And Joey Trungale, the last driver to get a time in 26th. Then you get to cars that didn't manage to get a clean lap. Takeshi Kita 27th. Tyler Gilnett 28th. And Cristobal Valenzuela 29th on the field. All three of those drivers do look as though they're going to grid up. So we'll get those full 29 cars out there. They are lining up behind the Porsche pace car, where we'll go for a pace lap. Then we go racing for 60 minutes here in round 5, the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Nick, last week, I think, gave us some fascinating battles through the field, except for, I guess, the top spot with Modoff kind of running away with things. But we saw some drivers be a little bit aggressive, some be a little bit more circumspect. I wonder if this is kind of a sign of things to come.
Yeah, I think as these drivers get more and more familiar with the ever so expanding field we have, I mean, this is up to 2 divisions now. This series is, of course, the top division that we broadcast. But I think as these drivers to push the envelope just a little bit further every week, makes it a lot more fun for them, makes it more fun for us. And I think we're going to see that a lot more in this, what will soon be the second half of the season. We also saw a lot of pit strategy play out last week for the first time this season. I'm wondering if we'll see that again today at a similar length track.
Yeah, that's true. Usually most everybody tends to wait until very late here in the GTE series to pit, but we did see a number of them pit at unusual times to try to get around one another, but that was at a track that it was very difficult to pass. What places do you expect passes to happen here? Because it seems like it tends to be a little bit easier to try and overtake.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best place to pass on the entire track is going to be that turn 10 chicane. You get that draft on the backstretch. You don't necessarily have to be the fastest car. You don't even have to be faster than the driver in front of you. You just have to be clean through there. Another good spot would be the turn 6 and 7. That double apex, that right-hander. I doubt that we'll see that nearly as much as that chicane, the turn 10, almost kind of bus stop style chicane. But I think we're going to see drivers like we just talked about, really start to get aggressive with one another and find places elsewhere on the track as well.
See how that plays out. Could also potentially see some lap traffic. Maybe that'll open up an opportunity for a pick in certain places. We've already hit the backstretch, the longest acceleration zone on this track, especially for these cars. as they come up and over the hump and work their way towards that final chicane. The car's doubling up too wide, going to be released very soon once they come over that final hill. But for now, they will plunge down into the valley towards one of the lowest parts on the track with this heavy downhill braking zone. That crest that you can see from this low camera angle should give you a good idea of just how steeply it drops and how much elevation change is here at the end of the lap. They're giving a wide berth to that pace car as Caraballo gets to decide exactly how far back they go. Waiting patiently for the green flag now as the pace car peels in. Caraballo accelerates away. Green flag is out here at Road Atlanta. He gets a decent jump over Felipe, who has to cover off Acosta almost immediately. Diaz having to cover off Carl Modoff, who finds himself under attack from Sean McBeth. McBeth is going to be able to get to the inside and move himself up one position from the start, but now they come into the tricky turn 3. This is where we see a lot of action typically. Drivers having accidents on the first lap as they accordion together, but no such problems this time.
Looks like deep in the field we might have a couple drivers struggling to get going, possibly struggling with contact with one another, but up front, a gutsy move there at the start by Felipe to cover off Acosta, like you mentioned. It's keeping him in second now. They come through turns 6 and 7.
Onto the backstretch for the first time in anger. Felipe having a hard time getting off the corner, and Abner Acosta looks like he's going to get the best run of the top 3. Managing to move to what is the inside as the track weaves to the right down the backstretch, but what will be the outside of the first chicane. Acosta's now fully ahead. Does he cover off? Yes, he picks the middle of the road, goes in a little deep, almost gets to the inside of Caraballo, but manages not to hit him. Still, he takes second place over Diaz, who is already, over Felipe, who's already looking to the inside.
Felipe trying to get a run. Man, Felipe had to check up so hard there. He almost got rear-ended by Michael Diaz, teammates with Abner Acosta. Now he's on the inside of both of those Obsidian Racing drivers, going back up the hill. Let's see if they can keep it clean through here.
Rainbow Porsche of Modoff. Whoa, and Modoff spins in front of the field. He gets hit by 2 cars, but goes off course. He had just managed to re-overtake McBeth. McBeth was one of the ones that made contact with him there. I believe the other one was Uchartes.
I believe it was, but yeah, there was definitely McBeth and Modoff, rivals from last season, now fighting for 5th place here, getting together there, and it looks like not too much damage on either of those cars, just a lot of ground lost, especially for Modoff.
Oh, that looked like some serious net code, which is unfortunate. They were giving each other plenty of space. This wasn't really hard racing. That is such a shame. We were looking forward to an incredible battle with these great drivers. Oh, and Stogbauer's had a problem. Stogbauer's off course at the chicane. He had some big help from behind. Pete Mobrotten managed to get into the back of him. Let's watch the replay here.
Yeah, that was Mobrotten. Looks like just missing the braking point just a little bit, and they are teammates as well. The Sassy Apps Autosport Blue team.
Absolutely punted him. You can see there's no way for him to stay out of that concrete wall. Stogbauer returns in 27th. That was Gilmet that they were going by. Not sure what happened there. Up at the front, though, Caraballo continues to pull away. It's 1.1 seconds. Back to Felipe. Felipe about half a second ahead of third place driver Abner Acosta, where we finally get our closest battle of the top 5. That is between Acosta and Diaz.
And while we were watching those replays, Felipe did not at all have that gap over Acosta right there in third. He was right there with him. He's now been able to pull away just a little bit and try to focus on chasing down Moises Caraballo for the lead. It doesn't look like he's being able to make much headway there, though.
This has been great news for Acosta. Remember, his main rivals are Diaz and Modoff. He's ahead of Diaz, though not by much, but Modoff falling so far down the order is going to really have to work to make something out of today's race and get decent points. Back in 9th position, we've got a train of cars. It actually goes up to P7. That's led by Espinoza. Reba's in there, Eisler, Arroyan, Harwood, and Macbeth. A little bit of a dive to the outside from Arroyan around Eisler through turn 6, but he's got to get the momentum off of 7. I think he's got it. Wow, made him work the hard way around, and I'm pretty sure by the time they get to the end of this straightaway, this should go to Arroyan, I would think. No, they're going to go 3 wide, because here comes Nick Harwood. He's going to be on the extreme outside in the middle. It's Christian Eisler. They come together, and Eisler gets tipped into the wall. For the second time this race, the chicane sees a car shoved into the concrete.
Just a little bit of contact there from Harwood on the left front of that Porsche, being able to clip Eisler just a little bit. I think Eisler was trying to wait as long as possible to make that turn in, because he knew he had Royan to his inside.
He got sandwiched, though. It looks like the car in front hit him, and with the car behind right there, it's like when kids have someone kneeling behind you and shove you. So there's just nothing you can do in that situation. Eisler down to 29th. That battle's not over where they were, because Nick Harwood now under threat from Sean Macbeth, who lost positions when he made that contact with Modoff. So he looks for the over-under. Oh, but almost gets chopped off. He's given space at turn 7. That's a horrible run off, but it's still, he squeezes Pete Mobrodin off the course. Corey Clark, in the meantime, will take advantage of that. He's in the Rainbow Porsche that is suddenly gaining speed and moves up into 12th place. Another bite of the apple for Sean Macbeth if he wants it, because he's got to run down into the chicane. Harwood defends to the inside, and Sean Macbeth can't quite do anything with it, but it hurts his exit speed. Corey Clark knows it. He's looking for 2 in 1 lap, and he's going to get those 2 positions. Corey Clark into 11th now.
Looks like a really unorganized battle. Not so much against the driver's faults, but these drivers just having a hard time predicting what everyone else is doing here. Everyone trying to be gutsy here in the opening stages. Still trying to hold on to that spot is Clark.
Oh! He managed to hold around the outside, but it was all for naught. Somehow Sean Macbeth doing things the hard way through a number of corners. Clark still in front of him. Macbeth tries to get the run off of turn 5, but goes a little bit wide, so won't see another move here, I don't think. Down into 6, he stays on the racing line.
Macbeth is certainly going to get a bit of a draft here, though, I think, as he comes down the backstretch. Does have a little bit of damage, but I think he's going to be okay if he tucks in right behind that number 24 car in front of him.
The one who came out the best out of all of this is that little orange, white, and black speck you occasionally will see up in front. That is Nick Harwood in 10th position. With all the fighting behind him, he's pulled away slightly. But they break down into the last chicane, and Corey Clark has been somewhat freed up, it almost looks like now. He starts to regain that ground on the 19 of Harwood.
Yeah, I think mentally just putting those battles aside and focusing in front of him would definitely help him. As it looks like Cristobal Valenzuela has had a little bit of an issue.
Wow, the final chicane has been something of a hot spot. But this one was different from what we saw before. Valenzuela was trying to make a move to the inside of Hall, lost the car on his own, spun it off, and wound up giving up 3 positions instead.
Close call for those 3 cars that were right behind him. He had
it was Justin Rame, Stogbauer, and Kita. So he's on the track once more, but we've seen many drivers already have serious setbacks towards good results today. Let's go back to those cars that we were at before, because Rame had a good run on Hall. We've jumped up the lead because this is actually very close. This is, who are these two actually? This is Espinoza and Oh, and we lost Espinosa and Uribe.
Looks like they might both be having some connection issues, which is making their battle a little hard for both of them. I would imagine the two Ferraris there.
Hard for us as well to keep track of where they are. They come down into the S's. So let's head back to 10th place. Harwood still holding the gap to the cars behind him. Corey Clark, who was gaining, is under pressure once more from Sean McBeth, who's finally calmed down a little bit. In fact, he's nice and smooth off of turn 5. He's got a nose to the inside, but he's not willing to try it down into turn 6. Maybe looking for the setup. Out of 7, onto the backstretch. He's got to watch out behind because Pete Mobrotten as well is stalking them, but Mobrotten gets wheel spin off the corner. That'll hamper his hopes. McBeth, though, and his chase for Clark doesn't get a better run than the rainbow-colored machine.
Looks like McBeth is possibly struggling with a little bit of straight line speed. I think he does have a bit of damage from that earlier incident with Modoff, and he's not able to suck up to the back of Clark nearly as much as I would have thought.
Yeah, that contact with Modoff seems to have done a little bit to his aero. And you're right, that might be affecting him. But he certainly seems to close through this portion of the track, the twistier first sector. Up and through turn 1, over the crest into 2 and 3. Last time when we looked, it looked just like this, where he gets right underneath the rear wing of Clark.
Yeah, exactly. The issue with the aero is that Sean McBeth is faster than Corey Clark, but he's only faster than him in all of the places where you can't really pass that easily, so he's really struggling to get around him. It looks like he's being held up.
That's got to be frustrating for McBeth, especially since it seems like he has pace. They come onto the backstretch once more. This is where he needs to get into the slipstream, and he's close, but I don't think he's quite close enough yet. Again, they've pulled Nick Harwood to within a half a second. And maybe Corey Clark battling it out with the Bushfink driver could open things up for McBeth. Oh, or he'll run into him, get into the back of him, it'll get both positions in one as Nick Harwood spins off. Corey Clark pulls off to the side to collect himself. Well, that was rude.
I'm wondering if was there contact there, it looked like, with Corey Clark in the back of him?
If there wasn't, it looks like there might have been some neck code. Let's watch from Corey's perspective here.
Awfully close, yeah. I think there may have been just a slightest of nudges.
Didn't expect to have to break that early. Finds himself off track. Sees two rivals sneak through. Tell you what, great heads up by McBeth in that situation too. He threaded the needle. Well, we've knocked off 13 minutes of this race, and we've just had to change for position for 4th, I believe. If not, it was awful close. It was Diaz and Caron, and there wasn't a change for position, but it was an attack from Caron into the chicane. Certainly the place where everybody should have bought a ticket today.
Yeah, Caron has definitely caught Michael Diaz. Remember, Diaz and Acosta were hooked up pretty much 1 and 2 there for 3rd and 4th.
Diaz looking for another top 5. He's had 3 out of the 4 races. Bit of a bobble off of turn 5 as Andrew is going to try to go the long way around. He tried this at the chicane before. Will turn 6 speed difference. Not quite. With Andrew now. Ooh, this looks very good for him. Much better run off the corner than the number 45. You can see as he pulls within the slipstream, he's forced to go to the right side of the track. He might be fully passed by the time they get down into the braking, and indeed he is sliding back into the line. Michael Diaz comes back at him. He's deep on the brakes, seeing if he can get this spot back, carries the speed around the outside of the second apex, and denies him once again.
Fantastic move there by Diaz to hold on to it. Now a little bit of a defensive mover down the front stretch. Karan sees that, has to duck back to the outside. You can see the handling on these cars, very weighty cars. They are struggling, sliding around these corners. Now side by side through the S's. It is tight.
You could not. Oh, and he just has to catch it once more. But yeah, you were right. That he barely slotted in front of that BMW in time. Oh, but he's wide off of 5. He carries his speed nicely, and I think we could say this one's done.
Right behind him, Javi Utreras actually has made his way up to 6th. That's that yellow car that you see closing in on this battle.
I was about to say that those two fighting as hard as they were lost them a lot of time on Acosta, but you're right, the reverse is also true. It cost them time to Utreras, who looks at a top 5 potentially if he could maybe go on the attack. Closes in under the braking to the chicane on Diaz.
Utreras has had a good, quiet season that was capitalized last week with a 2nd place finish, and he's starting to look really strong.
And Javi did a good job in the pit stops that last race too. I believe that's where he found that 2nd place. Yeah, this took a lot of that inside curb. Don't think he got a cut course penalty. Meanwhile, Macbeth and Mo Broughton can't seem to get away from one another. And in fact, did Mo Broughton get by Macbeth when we weren't looking? Let's take a look at that replay.
Mo Broughton was sitting in line, not looking too feisty, not looking too eager to get around Macbeth earlier on. This is a little bit of slipstream, it looks like.
Just gathered up behind him, braked later, found the apex, and Macbeth didn't really fight it. Not sure if he was surprised by that and was caught napping, or if he really genuinely didn't mind losing out on the place. Could be back to what you were talking about earlier with the lack of straight line speed.
Yeah, and he had no one in front of him either, with Nick Harwood being sent off a couple laps earlier.
We've got quite a battle brewing behind them. That's got Sebastian Maciera in 12th, followed by a train of cars. Pisano, Modoff in his climb back through the field. He's gotten back to 14th. And he's just recently overtaken his teammate, Corey Clark, who trails behind as we get a look to the inside from Pisano. Maciera does not defend, but he does chop him off at the apex, not afraid to shut the door.
Very defensive. They are both running the inside line there on the front stretch, trying to block each other off. That allowed Modoff to close in on him even more. Uphill through the S's, you can see Modoff get a little bit of a run, but had a big bobble there as Clark gets up close to him.
Clark looks to the inside a little bit. Not sure that he's really, didn't think that that was going to be a serious attempt. Here's where it gets interesting, Nick. It was Macbeth who tipped Modoff around, who has a bad exit off of turn 7, and Corey Clark goes on by. But it was Macbeth who got into the back of Modoff, even though, whoa, what's going on? Modoff, he just drifted off track.
Yeah, that was odd down the backstretch. He had a terrible exit at turn 7. That's how Corey Clark got around him. I don't know what was going on there.
Maybe he goes off to the right. He might have been fiddling with some settings or something. This is just bizarre. I was about to say that Carl isn't necessarily aware that it was netcode with the touch that he got from Macbeth. So I was curious what was going to happen if he got up to Macbeth, but he's going to have to regain a lot of ground to do that.
He's still having issues, it looks like. He struggled through the S's. He does have a bit of damage, but, I mean, we didn't see that affect him earlier, so I don't know what's happened.
Hardware issues, maybe?
Quite possibly. Maybe some connection on his side.
This is very strange. But Masiera and Pisano are still side by side in 12th and 13th position. We were watching them fight before on the front stretch. Pisano is currently around the outside as they come down into the braking zone for the final chicane. Fended off by Masiera, but only for the moment because the better exit goes to Pisano, who dips to the inside down into the final corner, too wide through this fast right-hander. And it's still not quite done. Wheel to wheel into the first corner, trying to widen the entry as much as he can. Pisano finally comes in, but I think they actually made contact. Masiera off into the grass. He finally collects the car just as Corey Clark goes by.
They were so close to each other going into turn one. You couldn't fit a piece of paper in between them. Masiera, just that little bit of contact. Yeah, I think they did make contact. You're right, Joe. Sends him wide, just puts his two left wheels in the grass, and that was good enough for Corey Clark to gain that position.
Corey Clark not having too bad of a race for him. 13th now with that position gained, having started in P16. Usually it's his teammate who gets all the glory, but so far he's outrun him this time. Not missing anything up front, if you're wondering. Caraballo looks to be getting win number 3 if he keeps this up. He's extended his gap over Felipe by about 3 seconds. It's been consistently faster. Oh, and Macbeth is in. This, to me, pays credence to your theory earlier about the damage on the front costing him straight line speed. I think he's trying to get some repairs.
Yeah, it's an early stop. Still 40 minutes left of this, 39 minutes left of this race.
Oh, did something happen to Masiera? Did he just lose? Oh, yeah. Sebastian found himself overshooting turn 3 and gave up yet another position by cutting the course.
Yeah, thankfully not too bad in terms of damage. Actually, I don't think he had any damage. He was able to take to the club circuit here at Road Atlanta, which is kind of a makeshift access road here.
Yeah, you're going to see him just kind of go straight through because you saw the writing on the wall, and it was Modoff behind him in the Porsche. So he's going to get through, and then looks like he got overtaken by, I'm not sure who that Bushfink car was. In the meantime, as we were watching that, Modoff did overtake Corey Clark, so whatever was plaguing Carl, he's finally got under control.
And also, while we were watching that, some unfortunate news out of the paddock here at Road Atlanta. Sean Macbeth has taken that Speedworks Racing Team machine behind the wall. It looks like he's done for the day.
Well, that is disappointing. He was one of our championship contenders in previous seasons, but another bad result probably won't allow him to be a serious threat unless things turn around drastically. Meanwhile, we're watching Valenzuela just ahead of Kita and Leif Peterson in there.
Yeah, Leif Peterson just tagging on to this battle, running back in 20th.
They come up through turn 6. Kita getting a little bit under threat now as Peterson closes in. They come off of turn 7 onto the back stretch. But the Porsche doesn't seem to quite have enough for the number 30. From his perspective, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, watching from his perspective, see if he can get any closer here on the backstretch. It looks like he's just maybe a couple feet out of the toe. Little wobbly entrance into the chicane as well.
Yeah, just going to have to trail behind until he sees some sort of mistake from what it looks like on their similarity on pace. I wonder if we could head up to Diaz in 5th once again, because after getting passed by Andrew Caron, he hasn't dropped him. Michael's just been hanging out right behind there. In the 45, now he's not close enough to threaten him, but one little mistake, and I think this battle could be back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is impressive too, because like you mentioned, Diaz, after he got passed by Karan, it really looked like he was going to lose touch with Andrew. It looks like he's been able to fight back here slowly but surely.
Diaz trying to continue to rack up those top fives, much like Acosta ahead of him, who seems set to probably take another. He's in third place, a ways up the road. In fact, you can just see bits of him there up ahead. Andrew certainly blinking out quite a bit, which would be disconcerting for Diaz. Almost to the halfway point now. Are we going to see anybody come in, try to take a little bit of an alternate strategy? Our leader, Caraballo, still hovering at about 3 seconds ahead of second place, Felipa. He comes by. Don't really expect him to come in at this point in the race, and as such, he does not.
Yep. Dino Filippo making his way onto the front stretch now into turn one as well, sitting about 3 seconds behind our leader of Caraballo, who had an unfortunate race last week, had to DNF, but going for his third win tonight.
His car was not handling well at all. And
No.
Carl Modoff, I can report, just passed Pisano. That puts him up into 11th. He'll have a significant gap to get the next one, Mo Broughton, to take 10th place. Let's take a look at how this pass happened.
Man, Modoff sure is fighting back, but looks like this was on the backstretch and down into the chicane. Man, we've got cameras provided by Dougie Beard all around this track, but I'm pretty sure if he just put all of them on the chicane, we'd be pretty well covered for tonight's race.
Still cycle through them all, probably. And that will give Modoff at least some glimpse of hope. Watching it one more time. Again, the 948 now into 11th position with that move. Half of the race left to go. He qualified in 4th. He's going to have to continue to scratch and claw his way forward if he wants to even get equal to where he started up. Battle for 4th won't go away. Diaz making sure to keep Andrew honest.
We're still running in that kind of awkward-sized gap where Diaz just providing enough pressure so Carone can't focus his attention elsewhere. He can't try to chase down his teammate Acosta, but Diaz also not quite close enough at the same time to make an attack. He's just staying close enough to let Carone know that he is there.
Oh no, Corey Clark, after I was saying he was having a good race, has found the wall. This was heading into the S's, and I think this was taking too much curb.
It does look that way, yeah, just hooked it on the right and slid down the hill. You'll see it here. Gets up on him.
Man, that happened incredibly fast.
Yeah.
I want to say that's the first time we've seen the curbs give anybody problems. With that contact, he did receive some damage, but he comes back in 19th and looks a little slow.
That was some pretty hard contact into that concrete barrier. Yeah, he's really struggling to even limp it back to the pits.
That's incredibly unfortunate. We still have 24 drivers on the lead lap, and 26 are circulating of our 29 starters. So attrition isn't too bad today. Clark immediately comes into the pits. Kind of don't blame him. Did he actually scrape the wall, though? Oh, from bad to worse. 19th position. We were watching this a little bit earlier, but it's Kita now who is ahead of the group. Michael Stogg-Bauer giving chase, and Kenny Rodriguez in 20th and 21st position.
Yeah, Stogg-Bauer actually just taking over that spot to break the top 20. Looks like Rodriguez, I don't know if he gave it to him or just got offline and wanted to check up a little bit. We'll see it here.
Yeah.
Through the S's. Yeah, it looks like he got wide.
Decided better to give it up and let him through. That promotes Michael to 19th. Oh, and I think we got some takers for scheduled stops. I'm seeing Josh Daniels and Justin Rame hit the pits.
Yeah, they come in nose to tail. They were running just outside the top 15, I believe.
Yeah, they should be coming out well down the order of the field. The driver with a scheduled stop lately has been Rodrigo Munoz. Happened 2 laps ago. This is Valenzuela leading Leif Peterson just ahead of that battle that we were watching before. Peterson gunning it off of turn 7 down the backstretch. Through the corner, off of 7. Ooh, this one looks much better from Peterson. See if he can do anything with this. The yellow and white machine that you see in front is Valenzuela. The blue and gray is Leif Peterson. He closes in. Down to 2 car lengths. 1 car length, but not enough.
Yeah, and it kind of makes his corner entrance just a little bit ugly as well. Not able to gather it up nicely, but Valenzuela ducking into the pits, just as I said that.
One of our front runners now has come in and out. Andrew Caron is back out on track in 12th position. Valenzuela pits and Maciera as well.
Just about almost exactly at that halfway point, just a little bit past it. A lot of drivers in the past have liked to stretch their fuel as much as their fuel as much as possible on that first stint and then ride it out the last few minutes.
Interestingly, we have not seen Carl Modoff pit yet, so I'm not sure that Modoff has damage that's slowing him down, or at least he doesn't seem to think so.
Well, I think Modoff also, he fell so far back through the field. I think he knows he's got to try something a little bit strategic, even if it's not the best plan. He's got to do something for himself to get himself off sequence.
Rebay
Worth a
pits.
shot.
Corona is our highest pitter. Rebay should come out behind him, though. I don't believe those two were battling for position. And indeed, Caron keeps going and is promoted to 11th. Down to 26 minutes to go on the clock, well past that halfway mark. We're seeing the dominoes start to fall. Christian Eisler among those coming in. Down the front stretch and through the first corner. This is Caraballo, our leader. The gap has come down slightly. Felipe has cut it to about 2.5 seconds.
I think Caraballo was dealing with a little bit of traffic. I'm not sure if that had much to do with it. He had Anthony Pisano he just got by.
They've left Abner Acosta behind. It's about 5 seconds down to P3. Felipe is, I feel like he is got a bit of a fire lit under him because he can see Caraballo. So if that is driving him forward to try and see if he could manage to take a victory here.
I think I'd come in the pits now if I was Felipe. Try to undercut him, at least to get a little bit closer. Well, Caraballo's in.
Can't do that now. Yeah.
It's a little too late because Felipe also comes in. It's not going to help him much.
Now, this doesn't appear to be the end of the pit window because Abner Acosta stays out, but Diaz does come in. Javi as well. Certainly is a popular point to pit, it seems. Espinosa's going to follow them.
Felipe, I'd imagine, he might have gained a little bit of ground here on Caraballo, just with Moises having to slow down.
And something happened in the background with Jeffrey Arroyan. Let's see what exactly happened. Oh, I think he outbraked himself. You're going to see him come through this narrow pit entry a little too hot.
Oh, yeah. Pretty significant contact, and that really crumpled up the left front of that machine, that Ferrari.
Painted the Armco with the most expensive paintbrush he could find. Unfortunately, Royan back out in 11th, but how damaged is the car after that? Caraballo, obviously our highest pitter. Acosta is in.
Look at Felipe, too, right behind Caraballo. He did indeed close in with that pit sequence.
And he's not showing particularly faster in pit lane. Maybe it was something with the pit in or pit out laps. Acosta in his stall. Yeah, there you see between the two, there's just nothing to separate them down in the pits. They retake the lead from Acosta, who's just now taking off. But I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hold off Diaz, though. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. I think Acosta is far enough ahead of Diaz now. But Diaz was mixing it up with Corone, was he not?
He was, and Corone has fallen down further, it looks like. Still behind him. Still somewhat close, but Corone was in front of Diaz, so I believe Diaz did jump the 27 car.
Yep, I believe you're right. Diaz moving himself to 4th with that strategy call. You see the difference between those two pit stops. Those also similar, but half a second between them on I'm seeing on my screen.
Looks like Diaz quite a bit faster in the lane and the stop, it looks like.
Felipe trying to continue to put pressure on Caraballo. Dino not yet having won a race this season, has felt he's pretty fast and he's trying to show it today.
And he's got time, too. He's got over 20 minutes still, 21 minutes. So I think if he can just slowly but surely reel him in here, I think he's got it. But I don't know if he wants to rush it and make a mistake in the process.
Hopefully not. Hopefully we get a nice little battle for the lead as it's bubbling and brewing up right underneath us onto the back stretch. Still half a second back. Filippa giving chase. Could see our fourth different winner. No, excuse me. Yeah, fourth different winner in 5 races.
And the reason that wouldn't be 5 different winners in 5 races is that guy right there, Moises Caraballo, who has 2 victories. Going for a 3rd tonight. Trying to win 60% of the opening round races of the season.
They only have 1 drop week, so with him having 2 DNFs, he's really got to stay with it if he wants to try and challenge for this championship. Wish we could have talked to him last week to find out what exactly went down and why he quit, because his car wasn't damaged that we could see, even though he was losing positions. He certainly didn't seem happy with the handling of the car, but he pulled off into the pits early and then suddenly was gone. They have absolutely dropped Abner Acosta 5 seconds back to our championship leader. We've got a replay of a pass here.
Back in 16th place, Justin Rame getting around Josh Daniels.
This is becoming something of a theme. Getting it done down into the chicane and sealing the deal off the corner around the outside. Leaves Valenzuela behind. Excuse me, leaves Daniels behind, rather.
Ooh, there's a little bit of lap traffic in the battle for the lead. Tyler Gilmet has held up Caraballo a little bit. That's allowed Filippa to close in a little bit more. That was uphill through the S's, so nothing Caraballo or really Gilmet could have done for that matter.
Yeah, but Caraballo, regardless, does not want this at this point. He's going to hope to avoid that traffic if it happens anymore. There are a couple more lapped cars ahead of him. Shockingly, Christian Eisler's one, and the next is Kenny Rodriguez.
Yeah, Eisler has had a rough race. Started in 12th, which already is not the way he wanted things to go. Sitting 4th in the points coming into this event.
He got a little help, though, in this bad race as he was shoved off very early on. Hence why we see him so far down. Ooh, looking stronger and stronger through some of these corners, and very different lines showing between our 2 leaders. Caraballo perhaps going slightly defensive, maybe making mistakes, not drifting the car all the way out to carry his speed. Whatever it is, it's allowed Filippa to get this down within 0.3 of a second.
I'd be interested to see, looking back, when the last time a Ford driver won a race here in the PRL Sports Car Series. It's been a while, though, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm not sure that we've seen a Ford win here in the GTE series.
Yeah, I don't think during broadcasted events, at least.
Filippa maybe trying to set a little bit of history here on the channel. Oh, look at him. Just so smooth going through the final chicane. Now he closes in, coming around the final corner. Eisler, he's got his head up. He knows what to do, and he ducks out of the way to let them through so as not to become a part of this fight. All the way out to the outside. Dino Filippa trying to stretch the momentum of that car. to some place to allow him to make a pass, but he bobbles over the curb coming through 4. Saves it, but has to back off a little bit.
And you can tell he's just trying to put on as much pressure as possible on Moises Caraballo, trying to force him into a mistake or trying to force him to run wide or anything at this point to try to get around him.
He's going to have to be a little bit cleaner than that. Up next for them is Rodriguez that I mentioned earlier. Is he going to be as polite as Eisler was? He's a little ways ahead down this backstretch. I don't see him lifting, but I do see Felipe gaining inch by inch on Caraballo. Is he going to go for the attack down into the chicane? Yes, he is, but he tries to be covered off. Maybe a little bit of contact that sends Caraballo spinning. He's off the track. There's a new leader in the form of Dino Felipe.
And he's going to lose more positions. Abner Acosta going to be able to get around him. Diaz has come up to the rear end of him. Take a look at this one again.
I think there was the lightest of contact. It was a feathers touch.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was just a little nudge. We've seen that a couple times tonight in the chicane. Under braking, downhill, just a little contact. Gravity does not go in your favor for a guy like Moises Caraballo there.
Returns in third place. You mentioned Acosta slipping through. He's got to be laughing his way to the bank here. Looking at a second place finish after being as far down as I think he was 5th at one point, was he not?
Yeah, and it's just more points for the points leader. He's not too concerned about Felipe, who has only raced in 2 other races this year, so looks like it could be a good day for Abner.
Certainly looks like a good points day for the Floridian. Caraballo now under threat from Diaz. He could fall down to 4th now. And it's not just Diaz, Andrew Caron. We were following this fight between himself and Michael a little bit earlier. Diaz probably not interested in sitting around behind Caraballo too long, no matter how fast he thinks he is. He looks to the inside, coming down into the first corner, but comes back to the race line. Both of them down the apex, tracking out to the outside, and then up and over the hill into turn 3. Immense pressure starting to be applied, and is that a mistake from Caraballo?
I think it was. I think he just went a little wide. That pressure exactly worked in his favor.
So that loses him out to Diaz and, no, not quite to Caron. Caron is just behind him. You can see him into the BMW there behind the Ferrari.
And another mistake goes wide. Caron is going to be able to get around him in turn 7. Caraballo, he fell off the podium. Now he's just hanging on to a top 5.
This is starting to look a lot like what we saw at MotorSports, though. I hope he's not going to quit the race after this. Saw the replay of the pass.
He's got a bit of a gap back to Javi Utreras, who's the next car in line. Back in 6th.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he continues on. There's 12 minutes left to go. He's got a top 5 on the cards. I wouldn't think he got any damage from that touch. He didn't hit anything after the spin.
Yeah, I'm sure he heated up the tires, which keeps handling a tough task. But it looks like he's got them pretty much all right now.
Watching the leader of the race, Dino Felipe, new leader of the race since the drop of the green. It's got about 3.5 seconds back to Acosta, essentially at this point, rifling those laps off. Diaz and Caron still close together by about 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, and these two drivers, they were close together before the pit stop. After the pit stop, Diaz had jumped Caron, and they were pretty far separated. But then they ran into Moises Caraballo. That allowed or at least Diaz ran into him. That allowed Carone to catch him back. This is essentially going to become a fight for the last step on the podium as well.
And that could get pretty feisty. We'll see how it all shakes out in about 10 minutes' time. Looking through the field, just an update on Carl Modoff in case we have any fans of his watching. He is up to P10 now, but this recovery drive isn't really setting the world afire.
Battle with
just
Royan,
ahead of
though.
him.
Yeah.
Could potentially become 9th place. See how much Jeffrey fights him off for it. As it is towards the end. Couldn't even fend him off, though that'll be difficult for Jeffrey. No offense to him, but the pace of Modoff, to me, says that he should be able to dispense of him rather quickly. He's waiting for turn 7 here, trying to get the launch off the corner. And it's decent enough that he's within a couple car lengths, but can he close that down in time?
Doesn't look like he's getting much of a run here on the backstretch. At least when he is starting to get that little bit of slipstream, it's too little too late.
And that one is going to have to be abandoned. Maybe try next lap or the one after to see if he can move up to 9th. And that's where it'll probably stop, because it's 7 seconds up to Rebay, the next car. Corona's getting very close to Diaz once more. And in fact, he's got a great run off of turn 7. Andrew could have one of his best opportunities here. They've got Christian Eisler, who is lap traffic in front of them. He's going to stay off the right, let them have the inside.
Oh, so close down to the chicane, almost contact with Diaz.
We've seen enough contact down into that chicane. We don't need to see any more, so play it safe, guys. He's got to run down the front stretch, looks to the inside. He's got a nose in there, can't be chopped off at this point. Still wheel to wheel, not willing to give up. Diaz, we'll see it swing back in his favor through 2 and takes it back before they hit 3.
Yeah, not a place you want to go side by side down through the S's, but Carone's not done. He runs a little bit wide there. It looks like at the bottom part of the valley. Try to come up out of turn 5. Both cars pretty handling loose.
Turn 6, more traffic in front of them. Clark and Rodriguez. How well are they going to behave? Another good run down the backstretch from Andrew. Closing in, closing in. Slightly defensive move from Diaz as well. Didn't have it all the way to the right down the backstretch. Just trying to cover himself off, moving a little to the left.
More lap traffic. This time Corey Clark and Kenny Rodriguez right in front of him.
How are they going to handle this? This is a horrible place to catch them, unfortunately. Is Clark aware of what's going on behind him? He's certainly not pulling over anytime soon. Now he does. Lets both of them through. Nice heads up.
Yeah, just a little bit of a checkup by Diaz. Was all it took for Carone to reel him back in. He's there.
He's there, but can he get by? He's starting to look around side to side, seeing if he can play psychological warfare with Diaz. Here we go. This is where he's proven very strong down the backstretch.
Well, now Diaz is going to get a little bit of a slipstream off of Kenny Rodriguez. That's not going to make things easier at all for Andrew Carone.
And he's not in a hurry to pull over. He's going to stay to the right side, though. Doesn't break any later. Now he finally pulls out of the way. Carone certainly didn't make that easy for them.
No, not at all. And Corone had to slide through there. Looks like he wheel hopped a little bit. But nonetheless, keeps it clean.
Just a few more minutes that Diaz has to withstand this pressure. Big mistake from Caron through turn one. Somehow saves it, though, and doesn't even lose a whole lot of time. Let's watch this again.
That was just a rapid snap out of the 27 car. And I have no idea how he held on to it.
Car looking a lot more fish-like than the beast that is the BMW M8. He's about a second back from Diaz. We've seen him close in before. Can he do it again in the roughly 4 minutes remaining? This has turned into one of the best fights on track all race long between these two to settle the final step on the podium. Ahead of it, Felipe is creeping away from Abner Acosta. It's 4 seconds between himself and P2. You see him heading back down through the S's. Acosta has been the one chasing him as he tries to deal with some lap traffic, who spins off track. That was Stogbauer, who I think was mostly just trying to get out of the way and unfortunately put himself off in an awkward place.
Yeah, very similar wobble from what we saw just a second ago from Andrew Corone, only this time not able to gather it up on the upslope in the S's.
Going back to second place, who we were talking about before. Abner 4.5 seconds back from Felipe, but the good news for him is he's 4 seconds ahead of Michael Diaz, one of his main championship rivals, and Pete Mobrotten is in for a second stop. He's missing a nose.
Yeah, it looks like he's got damage.
I'm trying to find it. It was quite a while ago. I'm not sure that we'll be able to get it, but I can tell you that coming out of turn 4 last lap, the rear came around. He nosed it into the concrete, hence why he had to come in for repairs. Let's give a little more screen time to the leaders up at the top, since we haven't shown a whole lot of Felipe since his incident. I'm kind of curious. They do have stewards, race stewards in this series, Nick, as to whether they're going to punish him for the contact and taking the lead that way, or if they're just going to let it go or slap on the wrist. They could potentially maybe take the win away.
Yeah, it's one of those things we'll have to probably wait and see, unfortunately, until next week, when we run you down the standings in the pre-race show then, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I personally don't think I would call anything there. It's a tough call, though. Like you said, just a feather's touch of contact.
Yeah, I guess if it was me, I would give a simple warning that if something like that happened again, that, you know, obviously you would have some consequences. But I'm with you. It wasn't intentional.
Yeah, and I think even Felipe would say that himself. He wasn't trying at all to get into him. Or with the pace he was showing and passing cars before, it's definitely not how he wanted to run.
Tell you what, though, Abner Acosta, not only will this continue his top 5 streak, I believe this will be 3 podiums out of the 5 races.
Yes, it would be. And the only other 2 are DNFs.
No, Acosta had the 2 others were top 5s. You're thinking of Caraballo, I think.
Right.
Meanwhile, As actually, Carvalho running.
Oh, Traris has gotten by him, yeah.
Yeah, so he's falling down to 6th position. He's really lacking pace. This is really unusual. Kita unlaps himself on him. Ooh, things getting close between Caron and Diaz once again. Diaz still holding 3rd. Ooh, as ahead of him, our leader nearly had contact with lap traffic. Don't necessarily need to go to it. Maybe a replay for later. The action certainly looking like it's going to be right here for the final spot on the podium. And Diaz keep these hopes alive. He's trying to minimize his points lost to the driver in front of him, Abner Acosta, so that he can hopefully challenge him later on this season. Look at him weave, trying to keep him behind. We'll have to come back and watch the replay of that, because here comes Dino Filippa. The last time through the chicane, up and over the hill. It's controversial circumstances, but Dino takes the win here at Road Atlanta. Diaz is ahead of Caron, but only just, and Diaz is going to get 3rd. Whew, that was tight.
Yeah, heck of an effort from Caron. Down into the chicane, he just about had him, but just great driving defensively from Diaz. Did everything right on that last lap, and he's now going to be standing on the podium.
And Caraballo almost loses out on 6. Espinoza was right behind him at the line by about 1/10 of a second. Modoff and his valiant efforts to try and come back through the field only got to 9th place. If he wants to defend that title, he'll have to start doing better than just top 10s. Let's take a look at the replay of the battle for 3rd. Defended to the inside. It was good enough. Ooh, just about lost it, as you could see the car squirming under power. So as we come back live and the last of our drivers come across the line, Josh Daniels is going to be the last one on the lead lap in 15th. That's going to take us to break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, but stick around, because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Road Atlanta, round 5 here in the PRL GTE Sports Car Series saw its 4th winner in 5 rounds, Dino Filippa. This time taking away the checkered flag, Abner Acosta continuing that perfect run of top 5s, finishes P2 with Michael Diaz getting another podium under his belt in 3rd. He barely got it ahead of Andrew Caron, who took 4th place. Javier Uterres wasn't a podium today, but another top 5 for him in 5th. Moises Caraballo led for most of the race, got tipped off, we believe, with slight contact with Filippa, and then for some reason lost pace, even though he didn't hit anything for the remainder of the race. Andre Espinoza takes P7, climbing from 13th. That deserves a little bit of a mention. Pablo Uribe, 8th, and Carl Modoff, he had ghost contact early on, unfortunately, with Macbeth, and winds up in 9th in the end. Jeffrey Arroyan rounds out your top 10.
Nick Harwood had some issues down in the chicane as well. One of the many who went off in the chicane. He finds himself P11 after starting 17th. Another big climber, a huge climber actually, from 23rd on the grid to 12th. Anthony Pisano, Justin Rame, likewise 21st up to 13th. 2 last cars finishing on the lead lap are going to be Leif Peterson and Josh Daniels rounding out the top 15. 16th was going to go to Cristobal Valenzuela. Michael Stogbauer going to come home in 17th. 18th going to go to Kenny Rodriguez. Christian Eisler, a rough race for him. He got some contact as well. That help will put him back in 19th. And Takeshi Kita is going to round out the top 20.
Last car 1 lap down was Tyler Gilmet in 21st. Then you get to Sebastian Masiera 2 laps down, 22nd. Rodrigo Munoz, 23rd. And we hit some DNFs. Pete Mulrotten 4 laps down in 24th. Corey Clark, 25th. Fernando Borda, P26. Sean Macbeth, unfortunately, 27th for him today. Matthew Hall, 28th. And Joey Trungale in 29th. We have our winner ready to talk to us. Dino Filippa joins us in the booth. And Dino, I guess the elephant in the room is what happened in the incident with Moises there that allowed you to take the lead.
Hello, I don't speak Spanish very well, so if you allow me, I will answer in Spanish, please.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for coming and joining us. Could you give us your take on what exactly happened with the incident between you and Caraballo?
Yes. Wait, please.
Fortunately, my Spanish is not terribly good, though I took a bit of it in college. I think Nick is trying to brush off his textbooks in the background.
I've got the flashcards, Joe.
Okay.
Um, in braking, I try to go inside and think there is a bit of net code, and then I see Moises' car spinning in the corner.
You've missed a couple races so far. Do you plan to try and keep coming for the remainder of the season, or will you miss any more? Give Dino a second to
I use translate, please.
Yeah. We'll give Dino a second to translate that on his end as we wait for the answer. Bless technology for allowing us to have this interview in the first place.
I am running another championship this day, but each day I will be running in the next race. No, in the other race.
And one final question for you. Is there anybody you'd like to thank for this win here today? You can give this one in Spanish as well if you want.
Yes, to my team, my friends and teammates, and other spectators to the streaming, and ustedes.
It's all good. Your English is better than my Spanish for what it's worth. So, thank you for talking to us, Dino, and congratulations on the victory.
Yes, yes. Sorry, but for my English.
It's okay. We're just glad to have you. That was our winner, Dino Felipa, giving us a special interview. And now Nick is going to be talking to second place Abner Acosta.
Yes, I've caught up with Abner Acosta, who wound up in second. But Abner, at the start of that race, I don't know if you would have expected to find yourself finishing second.
Yeah, I was losing pace, like I think quite drastically in the middle of the race. I honestly did not expect to come out second as well. I was thinking maybe like a fourth place. But yeah, it seems like everything played out well, and I picked up some good points today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is key for you right now. You're already on top of the point standings. Dino not really battling with you right now with the amount of races he's missed either. So this looks like it just worked out pretty well for you in a championship run.
Yeah, it really does, and I think second place is my teammate Michael. So we are actually doing really well, not only individually but as a team. So I think we're 1-2 in both, so we're doing really.
You're the only driver who has run all five of the races to finish in the top five in all five of those races. Are there any tracks looking forward? You've got Lime Rock and Montreal, the next two. A lot of times those two trip up people. Are any of those tracks coming up that look to concern you?
Yes, I actually have. I don't think I've raced on those two next tracks, and I don't like them very much. But so I'm gonna have to put in a lot of practice for both of them for sure.
All right. Well, Lime Rock, expect the unexpected. That's always a fun one to watch. But congratulations tonight on your second place finish, and hopefully we'll be talking to you there again.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good night.
That was our second place finisher, Abner Acosta. We have the last step on the podium with us, Michael Diaz, just squeaking through to take that one. Michael, the battle between you and Andrew certainly had a lot of our attention, especially at the end. What was it like from your perspective?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Going great.
Uh, it was awesome all race, man. Just fighting with Andrew. Uh, can't really. I mean, yeah, just awesome. He raced really great, and that's about it, man.
Now, even though you lost points to Acosta finishing behind him, obviously your main contenders behind you in the championship lost a lot of points. So it's looking like you and Abner is going to start to pull away. What is your goal in this championship? Are you looking towards the title at all, or is that really not on your mind?
I mean, it'd be nice. We'll see what happens. I'll just take it a race at a time and try to get my best result.
That sounds like a good way to try and tackle things. We talked about Lime Rock and asked Abner how he felt about that. What about you? Have you run it in higher powered cars much?
I raced GT3 once. I don't think it's a good track for these cars. Let's see what happens. Probably a wreck fest. Hopefully not. But we'll see how it goes.
Well, your consistency served you well so far and has you second in the points. Congratulations on a third today. Hopefully, we'll see you next week.
Yeah, hey Joe, I just want to clarify something. You always say Moises got pole in Monza. It was actually me.
Ah. Apologies for that. Thank you for the clarification on that. Sometimes it's a lot for us to keep track of between all the series we covered. So we'll try and make a note of that and get that corrected next time. But again, nicely done here today.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Can I ask what happened to Moises up front? I couldn't really see it.
Well, he and Dino had a coming together, just the slightest of touches into the chicane, and Moises went off. And then from there, we're actually baffled as to why he lost significant pace and fell down the order. So your guess is as good as mine.
Ah, it's a shame. He's always having trouble with that guy. He's always taking people out, but whatever. Anyways, thanks, guys.
Right, Michael, with some opinions apparently as well. So we're going to close up after that interview. Thanks to everybody for coming to talk to us, as well as a big thank you to our sponsors, Simulation Motorsports Affinity, of course, bringing you this season. If you want to check them out, you can find them at SIMMSA.net. Also, a thank you to our sponsor that provides some prizes this season, ButtKicker. They can be found at thebuttkicker.com. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on IESN. All you got to do to subscribe to their channel is go to their YouTube page, click the big red button that says subscribe. You get all of the PRL GTE series in your YouTube feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, we're heading over to New England for Lime Rock. That'll be Tuesday, July 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.